Hello luxury watch lovers! In this channel I cover the background, fundamental design features, and things to consider before buying the watch. If you have a luxury watch that you'd like me to cover, let me know in the comments below. In this video, I'm going to cover what I think are the top 10 Rolex watches. For those of you who may be a bit new to watches, throughout recent years, Rolex is a brand that has positioned itself as one of the most recognized brands on the market due to its refusal to pursue cheap frills in favor of just producing an excellent product for the money. Rolex's demand has skyrocketed in recent years despite the fact that output has remained nearly the same. It's a mix of modern and antique Rolex, which is constantly a topic of conversation among fans. Both sides have advantages and disadvantages, and in our review, we try to share some of our opinions on both sides. Let's dive in, beginning from number 10. Starting at number 10, Rolex Submariner 14060. The Rolex Submariner 14060M was the last of its kind. There are many elements in this that remind you of the 1954 original Sub. It was the final Rolex sport model to have the originals drilled through lug holes, stamped bracelet clasp, stamped end links, and aluminium bezel insert when it was discontinued in 2012. Despite having a vintage appearance and feel, the Rolex Submariner 14060M saw a ton of enhancements throughout the course of its lifetime. It was the replacement for the storied 5513 when it was initially released in 1990 as the Rolex Submariner 14060. The watch's movement from the 3000 series introduced modern features such as the sapphire crystal, applied indices, and a unidirectional bezel. It persevered until 1998 when minor modifications to the movement gave rise to the 3130 movements and the M designation. The Rolex Submariner 14060M gained chronometer certification in 2007, adding lines of text to the dial. This aluminium bezel is just stunning. Something about the semi-matte surface works so beautifully in contrast to the glossy dial and crystal. The crown guards, on the other hand, serve their purpose without taking over the case like so many other designs from other manufacturers and those currently owned by Rolex. A side profile exposes a classy casing that is surprisingly thin in today's world. The clasp looks fantastic as well. The link finishing stamped into the clasp is iconic. A 300-meter depth rating is adequate for everyone except the most serious divers. Additional features include a 48-hour power reserve and lume that are above average. Let's take a look at some of its design features. We're looking at a stainless steel case size of 40mm, a thickness of 12mm, a lug-to-lug of 47.5mm, and a lug width of 20mm. This watch is powered by its Rolex 3000 automatic movement, and it has a scratch-resistant sapphire crystal, which can withstand a water resistance of up to 300 meters. You're looking at a price of about $9,913 for this watch. Onwards to number 9, Rolex Oyster Perpetual 126000. It's the first time Rolex has released a 41mm Oyster Perpetual. The fact that it has completely replaced the 39mm family and forced its way into the collection may be even more surprising. Rolex has introduced some exceptionally joyful choices in addition to the stunning silver sunray dial and polished gold-applied indices and hands of the 124300 and 126000. Dial variations are available in bright coral red, sweet pink, yellow, green, and turquoise, and even black. The new colorful dials are offered in case sizes of 41, 36, and 28mm. The supercharged Caliber 3230 is an in-house COSC-certified superlative chronometer that has undergone additional testing by Rolex after being cased up. It is fitted with a variable inertia balance wheel and the currently common paramagnetic blue parachrome hairspring. A substantial 70-hour power reserve is a nice enhancement, as are automatic winding, shock absorbers, and a 28,800 train count. Zooming in on its design features, we're looking at an Oyster steel case of 36mm and a thickness of 11.8mm. It has a lug-to-lug of 43.4mm and a lug width of 20mm. It is powered by a superlative chronometer 3230 movement, and it has a sapphire crystal, which has a water resistance of up to 100 meters. And you can expect to pay about $8,175 for this watch. Hopping across to number 8, Rolex Submariner 5513. The 5513 was released in 1962, a few years after the 5512, and remained in production until 1989. Although many Rolex collectors are more concerned with the watch's appearance than with its technical details, this model has utilized a variety of movement calibers over the years. The 5513 Submariner debuted with a caliber 1530 movement, but it was immediately replaced with another non-chronometer caliber 1520 movement. The dial of the Rolex Submariner 5513 underwent major change in the early 1980s, when white gold rings were added around the hour markers, and the dial's usual matte finish was transformed to a high glossy finish. Let's explore some of its design features. We're looking at a case size of 40mm and a thickness of 14.5mm. It has a lug-to-lug of 47.8mm and a lug width of 20mm. This watch has a non-chronometer caliber 1520 movement, and it's protected by an acrylic domed crystal, which can withstand a water resistance of up to 200 meters. Get your pockets ready, cause this one is priced at about $15,000. Moving along to number 7, Rolex Explorer II 226570. The Rolex Explorer II reference 226570 was released earlier this year as a successor to the Rolex II model 216570, which was released 10 years ago in 2011. It was once considered to be one of the most overlooked Rolex sports watches, but not anymore. The upgrades have been kept to a minimum, which may be one of the reasons for their success. The case's lugs have been made thinner, similar to the previous Rolex Submariner upgrade from a year ago. The Explorer II 226570 also received Rolex's in-house created caliber 3285, the same movement with GMT hand that Rolex uses in its famed GMT-Master. Caliber 3285 also includes a paramagnetic blue parachrome hairspring and Paraflex shock absorbers. These innovations shield your watch from magnetic fields and electric shocks. The new Rolex Explorer II 226570 also comes with the most latest Oyster bracelet. It has the renowned Oyster lock folding safety clasp, which helps prevent unintentional opening. Additionally, it has an Easy Link comfort extension link that enables you to adjust the bracelet's length by just about 5mm. A secret attachment system also ensures that the bracelet and case are visually connected in a seamless manner. Let's look at some of its design features. This watch has a case size of 42mm and a thickness of 12.5mm. We're looking at a lug-to-lug of 50.1mm and a lug width of 21mm. This watch has a caliber 3285 movement and a sapphire crystal, which has a water resistance of up to 100 meters. You can expect to pay about $12,795 for this watch. Adding some color at number 6, Rolex GMT-Master II Pepsi. The GMT-Master II is Rolex's typical travel watch. Initially created for commercial airline pilots who needed to know the time in different locations. A two-tone bezel with different colors for AM and PM time was a common design element of several GMT Master watches. In addition to serving as a space for Rolex to add colorful different tones to the watch, this was intended to make it easier for wearers to refer to the night and day cycle visually. Black and blue and red are just two of the many color combinations seen on GMT Master II bezels over the years. Zooming in on its design features, we're looking at a case size of 40mm and a thickness of 12.1mm. It has a lug-to-lug of 50.2mm and a lug width of 20mm. This watch is powered by an automatic movement 3185 and is protected by a sapphire crystal, which has a water resistance of up to 100 meters. You can expect to pay around $20,000 for this watch. Another fan favorite at number 5, Rolex Datejust. This Oyster permanent Datejust 36 in Oyster steel and white gold has a vibrant black dial and a Jubilee bracelet. The beautiful design of the 36mm Oyster case with a fluted bezel is highlighted by light reflections on the case sides and lugs. The Datejust has endured over eras in terms of design, while holding true to the timeless principles that have helped it become one of the most recognizable watches, especially in its classic forms. Let's explore some of its design features. This watch has a case size of 36mm and a thickness of 11.8mm. We're looking at a lug-to-lug of 44.5mm. and a lug width of 20mm. It has an automatic 3235 movement and it's protected by a sapphire crystal. It also has a water resistance of up to 100 meters. You can expect to pay about $13,445 for this watch. Moving on to number 4, Rolex Explorer 36mm. The Rolex Explorer is the brand's most underappreciated sports watch. The brand new Rolex Explorer is very similar to previous 36mm timepieces. The 36mm Rolex Explorer has undergone some thoughtful changes. We get a glossy dial with indexes and numerals in full lume. The movement is upgraded to a 3230 caliber with a power reserve of 70 hours. The bracelet is the Oyster lock, which has a safety clasp and a quick adjustment that allows for up to 5mm of flexibility. Let's look at some of its design features. We're looking at a case size of 36mm and a thickness of 12mm. This watch has a lug-to-lug of 43mm and a lug width of 20mm. It has a 3230 caliber movement and it's protected by a sapphire crystal, which has a water resistance of up to 100 meters. You can expect to pay about $10,200 for this watch. And making our top 3, Rolex Daytona. The Rolex Daytona 116500 is a watch that can be worn almost everywhere and with almost any outfit. It's sporty, as tough as all Rolex watches are, has great size and weight proportions, looks stunning brand new, and ages gracefully as you wear it. This steel version is relatively lightweight, providing a perfect fit for wrist comfort. The bezel and dial are both inky black, with the bezel appearing slimmer in person than in photos. Due to the intricate bezel engravings, full dial with 3 subdials, and numerous lines of text, the watch can occasionally feel cluttered. There isn't much space on the dial, but it's done in such a way that it works and adds to the attractiveness of this modern variant. It began with zenith movements before transitioning to an in-house Rolex movement, the caliber 4130 with 72 hours of power reserve. Zooming in on its design features. This watch has a case size of 40mm and a thickness of 12.4mm. We're looking at a lug-to-lug of 46.5mm and a lug width of 20mm. It has a caliber 4130 movement and it's protected by a sapphire crystal, which has a water resistance of up to 100 meters. You can expect to pay about $39,900 for this watch. Almost reaching the top at number 2, Rolex Submariner 126610 LV. The Rolex Submariner is one of the most recognizable watches in the world. This 41mm edition is the follow-up to the Hulk, which was released in 2010, a suitable successor to the green Submariner 16610 LV, which was introduced to honor the Submariner's 50th anniversary. The redesigned 41mm cases with slimmer lugs, broader bands, and a new movement are the most significant upgrades. For the no-date model, Rolex installed caliber 3230, and for the date versions, caliber 3235. The chronology escapement in these new movements provide a larger power reserve and more efficiency. It didn't take long for the new green Submariner to get a nickname, as some people said the black dial and green ceramic bezel reminded them of the Starbucks logo. Let's take a look at some of its design features. We're looking at a case size of 40.5mm and a thickness of 12.8mm. This watch has a lug-to-lug of 47.6mm and a lug width of 21mm. It has a caliber 3235 movement, and it's protected by a sapphire crystal, which has an impressive water resistance of up to 300 meters. You can expect to pay about $17,900 for this watch. And the moment we've all been waiting for, number 1, Rolex Submariner 41mm. The world went crazy when Rolex unveiled its new Submariner series. The new Submariner 41mm is marginally larger than the previous model, has thinner lugs that may be more similar to the non-ceramic Submariner versions, and a larger lug size. One of the highlights is the redesigned Submariner's increased power reserve. On the surface, it appears to be a change that keeps up with the rest of the industry and the brand's other timepieces. Rolex broke tradition with this watch, going from 40 to 41mm for the first time in history. Zooming in on its design features. This watch has a case size of 41mm and a thickness of 12mm. We're looking at a lug-to-lug of 47.6mm and a lug width of 20mm. It has an automatic 3235 movement, and it's protected by a sapphire crystal. This watch has a water resistance of up to 300 meters, and you can expect to pay about $15,500 for this watch. And this wraps up my review of what I think are the top 10 Rolex watches so far. Thank you for watching this video. Nothing helps my channel more than you watching until the very end. These videos do take a long time to make, but are a labor of love. If you enjoyed this type of content, let me know in the comments. And remember, time is your greatest asset.